We're on the bottom line of Tes Zayin Amid Beis. Tana Rabban. Shloisha hitimin HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'olam hazeh me'ein olam haba. There are three. The Rebbeinu Shalom gave them a taste of what olam haba would be in while they were still in this world. Elohein, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. It's Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Avraham d'chsev ba'koil. So far, until now we were discussing that it says by Avraham ba'koil. But it says a similar lashon by Yitzchak and Yaakov. It says Yitzchak d'chsev b'mikoil. And it says Yechrad Yitzchak harod gedoyla. Yitzchak was very afraid ad ma'od, very much. Vayomer mi'efer hu atzod tzayid. This is after Yaakov fed him the trapped animal, the cooked animal. He said, "Who is this dead?" And then Esav came to him. He said, outside, who gave me the first food? Mikol Baterem Tovai Vavracheyu Gam Baruch Yeh. Va'oichel Mikoil. It says the Yoichel Mikoil, use the Lashon Mikoil by Yitzchak. And Yaakov d'chsev bei Kol. Yaakov, it also says Lashon Kol. Kachnas berchosya shevesila ki chanani likim ki yesh li Kol. Yaakov says, I have everything. So you have this lashon of everything, and Rashi says when you have a lashon of everything, there's nothing that's excluded. So Kol includes the taste of olam haba. I'm going to see there's going to be a bunch of different benefits that different people were zeicha to, but Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov had all of them. Once you say Kol, it includes everything. Shloisha l'shalit b'han Yetzirah. There are three that the Yetzirah did not touch them. Now, if you look at the Taisus on the side, the third Taisus, Shalosh l'shalit b'han Yetzirah. Ein lefar sh'l'shalit klal. It can't be that they never had a Yetzirah. Dimkein hechi kibul le'agra. How would they get any schar? Obviously, like we said, the Yetzirah is there for our benefit. The Rebbe gave us bechira. Without a Yetzirah, a person has no bechira. He doesn't get any reward. The reward is for the struggle, for overcoming the Yetzirah. The Rebbe will watch the feet of his chasidim. When a person gets through most of his life and he hasn't done a chait, he's not likely to do a sin anymore at all. Since Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov kept themselves so far from Averis, they sort of kill the Yetzirah within them through their meisim by making the right choices through most of their lives. When they got older, the Rebbe Shalom helped them along and took away the influence of the Yetzirah on them. So Elohein, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Tzivhu Bakol Mikol Kol. This is part of the Kol that we said before. V'yeshem Av David. David HaMelech also did not have Yetzirah. Tzivhu Libi Cholol B'Kirbi. We said before, Shtei Levavos, the two hearts. One is the Yetzirah, one is the Yetzirah. So when David said, "My heart is dead inside of me," he meant the heart, the Yetzirah, the part of him that's trying to get him to do Averis. And the Manam who didn't include David, Sarehu de Kamitka. When he said that my heart is dead inside of me, he was talking about the tsaras that he endured. He was talking about, I feel a little bit dead inside. As David HaMelech was bemoaning the hard life he had. He wasn't saying that his Yetzirah was dead. Tana Rabbanim, Shishal Eshalit Behen Malach HaMavis. There are six that the Malach HaMavis was not able to touch. Ve'eluhei. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. It includes Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sebu, Bakol, Mikol, Kol. Like we said, they had every mile possible. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Sebu, Al Pi Hashem. It says a lashon, Vayal Aaron Akoyin El Har Har Al Pi Hashem. Vayam Hashem Bishnas Har Boyim Lotzis Bnei Yisrael. It says about Aaron that he was Meis Al Pi Hashem, and it says L'Gavi Moshe Vayam Hashem Moshe Eved Hashem Be'eretz Moav Al Pi Hashem. So you have the lashon both on Aaron and Moshe, that it was by the mouth of Hashem, means that it was not through the Malach HaMavis, it was like a neshika, the Rabban Shalom's kiss that killed, that they were nifter. Amar Rabbi Elazar, in fact, the Marva Miriam, like Sibba al Pi Hashem, doesn't say this lashon by Miriam. So tomorrow, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Miriam nami b'neshika mesa. Miriam had the same misa as Moshe of Aaron. The Asya Shem Shemi Moshe. Sham Sham. It says a lashon of Vayama Sham Moshe, and it says Vatama Sham Miriam. So we make a Gzeir Shava. Meimana Nema Ba'al Pi Hashem. Why doesn't it say the lashon of Al Pi Hashem like it said by Aaron and Moshe? Shignai Adav Aloimim. It's not appropriate to say about the Rebbeinu Shalom Legabi, a woman, that she was meis Al Pi Hashem. It's not an appropriate lashon.
Al Pi Hashem or Al Pi Neshika?
Well, we're saying Al Pi Hashem means Al Pi Neshika. That's what we're saying. We're saying by Moshe and Aaron it says Al Pi Hashem, and that means Neshika. Miriam was also Al Pi Neshika, but since it's not appropriate, we didn't use the lashon of Al Pi Hashem in the pasuk, but rather we made a Gzeir Shava to Aaron and Moshe, actually to Moshe, to tell you that she had the same misa, but without using the actual lashon of Al Pi Hashem, of Neshika. Tanu Rabban, it's Tanu Rabban, Sheva lo shalat b'hen rima v'toila. There are 7 that there was no decomposition after death. They weren't consumed by worms. The Eluhain, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, like we said, they Bakal Mikal Kol, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Binyamin ben Yaakov. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Dechsebuhu Mikal Kol. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, Dechsebuhu Al Pi Hashem. And like we said, and once it says Al Pi Hashem, so Taisa says that what the way is it Taisus or Rashi? I think it was Taisus that says that the way that a person decomposes is because when the Malach HaMavis touches him, it brings like a certain venom into him that causes him to decompose. Yeah, so that's so Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. Binyamin Yaakov Sivul Binyamin Amar Yedid Hashem Yishkun Levet Acholav. The Rebbeinu Shalom said that he will. Binyamin, he said, he's the beloved of Hashem, and he will reside securely. So it means his guf, even after his death, will reside securely without decomposition. Yeshayimim Af David as well. D'chsiv Af Sari Yishkan Levetach. It says also lashon of Yishkan Levetach by David. Beidach, and that which the other man who didn't include David, who Rachmi hu dekaboy. That was David was requesting this, but it wasn't fulfilled. Now, it's interesting. We all know the story about how David died, right? That he was always learning, and the Malach HaMavis couldn't get to him, so he made a noise in the garden, and then he was distracted, and then the Malach HaMavis jumped in. So the Chayr, that's not like this Gemara. So it must be that these are the 2 Shitas. This is only that story that the Malach HaMavis got him in the end means that he didn't die b'neshika, where there's no rima. So vice dice. These are the 2 shitas. One shita that story happened. The other one that it's not how he was nifta. Tan Rabban, Abba Mesu be'ita shel nachash. There are 4 that died because of the sin of the nachash in Gan Eden, in that we have in Bereshis, right? The Chava was enticed to eat from the Eitz Hadas, and she brought Misa L'Olam. So there are 4 people that only died because the bunch was Geyser Misa. But if not for that, they themselves did no Averis that would cause them to die. The Eluhain,
So what be'ita is comes to what boat from
Ita with the bite of the nachash. That means because of the bite or the consequences of what the nachash did with Chava, it's like it's an expression to say that they're dying because of the nachash, that original nachash. And these are the four people that never did an Aveira in their lives. Binyamin ben Yaakov, Amram Avi Moshe, Amram the father of Moshe, Yishai Avi David, Yishai the father of David, the Kalev ben David, and the David's son Kalev. The Kulu Gamra, all of them, we don't have a pasuk that teaches it to us. We don't, but we know it from Halacha L'Moshe Misinai. Labar mi Yishai Avi David. Yishai Avi David we see in the pasuk. The Mefarish Breikra, the pasuk explains this. T'chsev Ves Amsha Sham Avshalom Tachas Yaev. Avshalom placed this Amsha underneath Yaev, Alatzava on the army. But Amsha, this Amsha, Ben Ish, he was the son of a man, Ushma Yisra, whose name was Yisra, the Israeli. Asher Baal Abigail, he was married to Abigail, Bas Nachash, the daughter of Nachash, Achois Truya, and the sister of Truya. Aim Yaev, the mother of Yaev. Bas Nachashi. How could you say that Abigail was the daughter of Nachash and his sister Truya? Abigail and Truya were the daughters of Nachash. Their sisters were Truya and Abigail. So they were David's sisters and the daughters of Yishai. Alabas Misha Meis Be'itav Shel Nachash. They were called Bas Nachash because Yishai died because of the bite of the Nachash, like we said, because he never did an Aver. Hadron Chashutvin, Hadron Chalon. Now I'm going to start the Pasuk Parak of Layachbar. Not quite the same easygoing fare like we've had for the last couple of days. Zak the Mishnah. Layachbar Adam Bar Samuch L'Bayr Shel Chavere. A person can't dig a bar next to his friend's bar. Meaning, if Shimon had previously dug a bar, let's say Reuven has his bar next to his property line.
So something happened with my phone again.
Okay. It's fine. You don't have to worry about the video. So Reuven, now can you hear me? So if Reuven had previously dug a bar, he dug a pit next to his border with Shimon, and now Shimon, oh boy. Okay. So the Mishnah says, if Reuven had previously, okay, we're giving up now. That's it. Okay, so the Mishnah says that Reuven and Shimon, Reuven had previously dug a pit in his own property, and now the question is, can Shimon do a second pit? Because having a second pit will undermine the first pit if it's too close. So the Mishnah says, once Reuven already has his pit, Shimon cannot dig his pit near Reuven's pit. Not a siach or a mara. Rashi explains a siach is a long and thin pit. A ma'ara is a cave with a ceiling on it, and not a amasamayim, which is an irrigation ditch. And rechas kaifsin, a pit that's used for cleaning clothing. Unless he kept himself away from the kaisel chavera, from the wall of his friend, 3 tvachim. The Gemara is going to ask, what do you say? We said before he has to keep it away from his bar. What he's saying, he has to keep it away from the wall. I will explain that it means the wall of the pit. Besad besid. And he also has to use like a cement, a lime cement around the wall to stop water from going away, from going through. We'll see later on. This is either an addition or an alternative that he can use this to stop water from seeping through or to reinforce the other wall. He has to keep away the gefes is Rashi says is the leftovers after you press olives. Vesazevel is manure. Vesamelach and salt. Vesasid and lime. Vesaslime. Lime is good when it's made into a cement. When you have a lime pit, that also tends to reach out and infiltrate your neighbor's pit or his wall. Vesaslime and the Rashi says slayim is rocks that are used to cause a fire. So the kind of thing that causes a hevel, it causes a certain heat to come off of it, because from his friend's wall. Shloisha tvachim. And that's he kept 3 tvachim away. And then we have either visod basid or oisod basid. This is in the Messiah Shas, I think it says visod basid. He has to additionally plaster with lime cement in order to protect it. But Taisa says oisad basid. It's a choice. You could do one or the other. Machikin is hazroyin, one who's planting. He has to keep his plant, what he plants, the seeds that he's planting. That's a machrisha and the plowing. That's meraglayim. And when someone uses urinates, also it has a corrosive effect. Mina kaisel, away from his friend's wall, shloisha tvachim, 3 tvachim. Machikin is a rechayim shloisha. You have to keep a mill. I guess the vibration causes damage. Min hashechev shehein arba min harechev. 3 from the bottom of the rechayim, which is 4 away from the top of the mill, because the top part of the mill is a little bit narrower, so there's an extra tefach. Vesatanu shloisha min hakil yeshein arba min hashefa. A tanner, similarly, an oven produces heat and it could damage someone's wall. So you have to keep it 3 away from the bottom of the supporting stone of the oven, which is 4 from the top of the supporting stone. That stone on the bottom goes in it slopes inward, so the top is 4 away and the bottom is 3 away. Zok Gemara. We're going back to the first thing that we had said, right? That if Reuven had made a bar, then we said that Shimon has to keep away 3 tvachim from Reuven's kaisel. Practically, Gemara pasach lebar Messiah b'kaisel. We started off saying that you have to keep your bar, la yachba. You can't dig a bar within 3 tvachim of your friend's bar. And then it says that you can't, elim kain hichik mi kaisel chaver. He has to keep away from the wall of his friends. Amar Abaye v'tem Rav Yehuda mi kaisel by Rishaninu. When we talk about keeping away from the wall, it means from the wall of the bar, of the ditch, meaning underground. There's a area around the pit. It's not just from the opening. You have to keep it away 3 tvachim from the actual interior of the pit, but even from the area around the pit. And as the Gemara will make clear later on, this means 3 tvachim from the border. That means the area between, let's say, Reuven had previously built his bar, and his bar was a few tvachim away from his border. You have to keep away 3 tvachim from his border. Let him say just mibayir shechaveri. Why are we saying mikaisel shechaveri? Hakamash the kaisel bar shloisha tvachim. It's coming to tell you the rule that the wall around the bar is 3 tvachim. Now, even though I just said that, as we're going to see later on, the Gemara is talking about from the border, that everything between the border and the actual pit is considered the wall of the bar. But from the fact that Reuven, who had previously put his bar there, had to make it 3 tfachim away when he first put it, so that's how we know that it has to be, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's how we know that generally the wall, the area, the kaisel of a bar is 3 tvachim. And what is the difference? Nafkamina lemekach umemka. The reason nafkamina is if someone sells a bar, it includes 3 tvachim of wall around it. Kedetanya, the wall around it that he's selling includes 3 tvachim. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a closely related question, and then we're going to bring a raya from our Mishnah to this question. Itmar, habal lismach b'tzad hametzah. Now the Gemara is going back. We were talking until now, and our Mishnah was talking about Reuven had previously built, he had dug a bar in his rishus, and now Shimon wants to do next to it. Now we're talking about when Reuven in the first place wants to dig his bar. Reuven wants to dig a bar near the boundary with Shimon. Abaye says it's not a problem. He could do it even close to the border. Rava says no, he has to distance it from the border. And the Gemara says 2 versions of this machlokes. Both Abaye and Rava would agree that if it's a sada, if it's a type of field, that they often do dig a bar, they dig wells to get water, for example. So even Abaye would agree that Reuven couldn't in the first place put his bar next to the boundary, because that's going to infringe on Reuven, that Reuven can't build then close to his boundary. Ki pligi, but according to this first version, the argument between Abaye and Rava is in a field that's doesn't typically have pits. Abaye says he could put it nearby because there's no reason to assume that Shimon is going to eventually want to make his bar. Just like you decided to put a bar here, even though it's not typical. Maybe Shimon, will someday also want it. Therefore, you have to distance your bar from the boundary, so I can have my full 3 tvachim. If, for example, if Abaye was to put his bar 1 tefach away from the boundary, so then his 3 tvachim of wall around his bar would go 2 tvachim into Reuven, and Reuven would have to be 5 tvachim away from the boundary. So just like you Reuven are deciding to put in a bar now, maybe I will also, and therefore Abaye says, even though it's ein asuya, it's also for Reuven to put it right next to the boundary. That's one version. No, even Rava, who says Reuven can't put it next to the boundary since there's nothing on the other side, that even Rava would say you could be saimech if it's something where they don't normally put virus, because there's no reason to assume that the second neighbor, that Shimon, will decide to put a bar there. Kipli b'sada asuyil virus. The machlokes Abaye and Rava is only where they typically do virus there. Abaye amasaimech afilu rabban. Abaye will say Reuven can put his land there, and even though it's likely that Shimon's going to want to also put a bar, and even according to the Rabban, because there's a machlokes that we've come across before, the Amri marchikin esa'ila min abar esem v'chamesh ama. There's a machlokes we're going to see a few blot later, that if there's a bar, if Reuven has a bar, and now Shimon wants to plant a tree, and a tree, depending on which kind of tree, but a normal tree goes 25, its roots go 25 amas. And the roots go and they destroy pits nearby. So machlokes, the Rabbanan say that you're not allowed to plant your tree within 25 amas of a bar. Even according to the Rabbanan who say that you're not allowed to do that, over there, at the time that Shimon is planting the tree, Reuven already has his bar. so inevitably the brutes are going to go out and destroy the bar. But over here we're talking about where Reuven is digging a hole. There's no bar on the other side. It's just a potential problem that someday Shimon might decide to dig a bar. And Rava says you can't be saimach in a place where it's normal to dig virus, and that's even according to Rabbi Yossi. He says there's no problem for the person planting the tree to plant it within 25 amas of Shimon's planting the tree within 25 amas of Reuven's bar, because each one is doing in their own property. It's going to take time for the roots to go. When you plant the tree, it doesn't instantaneously, the roots don't go and damage. Since it's only something that's going to take time, eventually it's going to do damage. In the meantime, it's not a problem. But over here, as soon as Reuven digs his bar, immediately that weakens the ground within 6 tvachim of where he dug his pit, and nobody could build a bar after that 3 tvachim away, because it immediately weakens the ground. So since it's instantaneous, therefore, that's why Rava argues over here. Tanan. So now we're going to go back to our Mishnah, right? So we have this machlokes Abaye and Rava. We have two versions of whether they're arguing in a case, according to the first pshat, they're arguing in a case, only in a case where they generally do, people do virus, but if they don't, everyone agrees that, I'm sorry, right, if it's a place where they do dig virus, everyone will agree that it's usher. And the argument is only where they don't normally dig. And according to the second pshat, the argument, everyone agrees that if it's a place that you don't, that it's going to be mutter. The argument is only in a place where they do dig virus. And our Mishnah said, our Mishnah said, a person shouldn't dig a pit near his friend's bar, meaning Reuven had already planted a pit, had already dug a pit, and now Shimon wants to dig next to it. So time to dig a bar. The only reason why Shimon can't dig his pit is because Reuven had previously dug his pit. Haleka bar samach, samach. But if there had not been a pit, the mashmais of our Mishnah, it would not be a problem for the second one to dig his bar. So Bishlam Amrit according to the mandam that says, to the version of this machlokes, that meaning the second version that we said, that a sada doesn't typically have virus, everyone will agree you could be saimech masisim besada she'ena asuyila virus. So that's why I was saying everyone would agree that you can originally. There's no problem with Reuven originally putting his bar there. The only problem is the second one who's coming. Pligi couldn't demand that says the machlokes is only in a sada that doesn't typically have virus. But if it was a sada that typically had virus, everyone would agree it's us. So Bishlam Abaye Nicha, according to Abaye, who says even by a sada she'ena asuya levirus, Abaye will argue that you're allowed to place the second bar nearby, then it makes sense. Why, according to Abaye, I'm saying you could dig the bar originally. That's how Reuven was already able to dig the bar. El Rava Kasha, according to Rava, he says that even by a sada, she'ena asuya levirus, you're not allowed to dig a bar in the first place. Why does our Mishnah say that it's only after the first, that the only reason why there's a problem is because the first bar was dug? You couldn't have dug the bar whether there was a bar on the other side or not. Amalach Rava, so Rava will answer. Our Mishnah said that like we had said, that the first person, that what we're talking about over here is not keeping the bar away from the opening of the bar, of the other bar, but from the kaisel of the bar. And like we said before, that means that he has to keep it away from 3 tvachim from where the original person also had to keep his bar 3 tvachim from the border. because we're trying to teach you the din that you have to keep, that a bar has a wall of 3 tvachim. So since the Gemara already amended the Mishnah to say that it means 3 tvachim from where the other person had made 3 tvachim, so we're not talking with the inference isn't from here that had there not been a bar, you could have gone right up to the boundary, because the mashmayis, as the Gemara said, is that the first person also kept 3 tvachim away. Ikeda Amri, others had this kasha from our Mishnah, exactly the opposite. The Itmar Allah that we said about our Mishnah, the Gemara now is saying that the inference from our Mishnah started with the fact, we had in the end answered how we could understand according to the first shot, according to Rava, that it's because of Barishaninu. That was the basis of the question that we're talking about. Because of Barishaninu, Bishlam al Hachlish and the Amr Besada Asuyil Baris the Reakol Aina Saimich. According to the Amr, that if it's typically has virus, everyone will agree you can't place your bar near the boundary. Masisim Besada Asuyil Baris. So we're talking about a sada that's Asuyil Baris, and that's why we're saying that even the original person building it had to keep it away 3 tvachim, like we said, Mikaisel Barishaninu, that it was already, the first person was already 3 tvachim away. According to the other man, the Amar, that they're arguing even by Sada Asuyil Baris. Bishlam Nicha, El Abaya Kasha. It's Shver and Abaya. Abaya says you can always build it. Why did we say that the first person had to keep away 3 tvachim from the boundary? Like we said, Kaisel Barishaninu, that there was a gap. Abaye will answer, the Mishnah is talking about where they're both coming to dig at the same time, and therefore you can't, that's the reason why, because that both of them had to keep away 3 tvachim. But Einach Hanami, the first one to come dig, would be allowed to put his bar, if there was no one at the same time digging on the other side of the bar, of the boundary, it would be okay. Okay, we'll stop over here, continue with additional rayas on this question, attempted rayas on this question.
Yeshkoyach.